This is Alexia Eisenhower, and the reason I asked her, Aaron and I asked her to speak at this conference is because she speaks on parasites and parasite cleanses, and it's so much more involved than that. But it was actually seeing her on some interviews that introduced me to parasite cleanses, and I went through this whole thing where I realized I need a cleanse, and it was quite literally life-changing, and I used a protocol that she recommended, and I realized, holy shit, everybody needs to learn about this. Everybody. I don't care who you are and how healthy you think you are. You need to understand this stuff. And in my opinion, it's probably the most important subject of the week, because it can quite literally make a difference in your life, and she is on top of it, and she's been exploring on her own the do's and don'ts of the parasite cleanses and what's most effective, and taking it even to levels of parasitic consciousness and beyond. And we're going to turn it over to her to explain all that to us. So thank you for being here, Lexi.
Hello, you guys. Oh, this is 6 months, and it's just finally coming to a time that I actually get to see people in front of me when I present. It's usually my cats sitting in front of me, and I'm trying to ignore them, and I'm talking on Zoom. So I'm going to go into a little bit about me and everything I cover, and before we get into today's presentation that I have for you guys. So there's really only 2 slides, and I'm not going to go too much into detail into them. We have young ones here, and you guys will kind of be able to read them, but they are trigger warnings, so you'll kind of get them when you see them. But that's what you have to deal with when we're dealing with truth, is not all of it's pretty, not all of it is something that gives us the happy feeling. Some of it is hard to hear, and some of it is really close to home. And even hearing you guys talk, I get triggered. And I've been doing this for so long, and you don't know when you're gonna get triggered, or when something makes sense for you. At Lowell last night, I was just like, oh, this is gonna be so cute. And he showed me some stuff that I've been having in dreams, and I was like, oh, this is just it finally makes sense. He was explaining the light codes when you get them, it just makes sense. So, yeah, definitely something that to keep in mind. Keep your mind open, keep your heart protected and full of light. Usually, I tell everyone to have some salt water and fill yourself with gratitude. I am so happy to be here with all of you guys. We always talk about not having like-minded individuals, and coming here, I can talk about stuff that I only talk about on looking down and typing away on the computer. So it's like, oh my goodness, it's new for me to even talk about some of this stuff. So let's start the presentation. Most of you guys know me if it's from Journey to Truth. I did a lot of Halloween type videos. Creepy crawlies is my jam. So we go into the vampires and a lot of talk about zombies. And I highly suggest everyone go check these videos out if you're interested in my work. The zombie talk is kind of where I start opening people's minds about having things inside of us. It could be toxins, it could be heavy metals, it could be worms. At the end of the day, we're all worm food. We know this. We know that you'll put a body into a casket, and if you have to exhume the casket a few years later, there's going to be worms. Now, you can't get anything in caskets. I don't know if anyone's seen how heavy they are. That means the worms are already in the body if they're decomposing the body. And I try to look at everything as don't label it good or bad, because we talk a lot about magic on my channel. Not because I want you to join a coven. No, I personally draw my intention from God. I believe in Jesus. I love Jesus. I love the Holy Spirit. But I understand this, that, all of it is magic. It is around us. When you talk to Amish, Mennonite folk, they look at all of us and they're like, you guys are all witches and wizards. You guys use those little black mercury spy devices on your phones. They understand what type of technology we're working with. So for me, the magic talk isn't so much about trying to be dark and spooky. It's trying to understand what's being done to us so we can kind of mitigate it and get rid of the bad programming, toxins that the horrible black magic is being done to us. I have worked with so many wonderful people I know who are on the live stream, people who are physically here. Thank you guys so much. I don't know very much about every subject. I love talking to people, and my Harry Potter series with the beautiful Jenny Constantine and Alexis with Ascension Diaries, I would say one thing, and it was just a flow. The girls would bring a new piece of information to the subject and blow my mind. I was like, I didn't even think of that. So we definitely need to do this as a community. And when we go into something thinking we know it all, how many of you remember Nelson Mandela dying? How many people remember Bernstein Bears? You knew that happened. And then guess what? It didn't. So things change so quickly, and it's just interesting to keep your mind open and just listen to everyone. I love listening to rumors. I call what we do, all of you guys, if you're here, you've fallen down a rabbit hole, one or two, to get here. So you know you have to keep your ears open for these rumors. You don't have to make them your identity. What I've learned about rumors from high school to what we do in the Awakening is there's a bit of truth in the rumors, and there's also a bit of misdirection. So keep your ears open, and if you listen to enough people, you'll see the similarities and what everyone kind of gets to the same point of. So the particular form of magic that I really spend a lot of time looking at is the eugenic side. And DNA, when you have two strands, like we're dealing with right now, you're going to be dealing with code that looks exactly like programmers' code. You're going to be dealing, and if programmers' code has to deal with the viruses and you need to defrag your computer and everything, we need to defrag ourselves. So that is where I spend a lot of information and time on, and looking at just these past 30 years. I'm in my mid-30s, and I have to deal with stuff that my older sisters who are in their late 40s, early 50s never had to deal with, because, I don't know if you guys noticed, it was I think in '88 is when they started rolling out these vaccine series for all the babies, and none of us knew any different. We trusted the doctors. I know many people who trusted and put their faith into these people who are supposed to save us, but the medical industry professionals, sadly, are the number 3 cause of death in the United States alone. So a lot of people found out the hard way that the babies went into the doctor appointment at their 6-month shot or whatever, and they came back different. SIDS cases were never a thing until the late 50s, 60s started rolling out those vaccines, and then SID cases just went extreme when the vaccine series in the late 80s came out. So a lot of people my age, these millennials, we have quirks. In my, I say everyone has a form of, everyone is on the spectrum. We all have little things we can obsess over. We all have little quirks that I don't think humans had 50, 60, 100 years ago. And if you look up the symptoms for autism, they're gonna be like 80% sharing with symptoms of dementia and Alzheimer's. So what they used to give to older Americans, something that used to take 70 years to, memory loss, things of this nature, the fear that comes with dementia, they learned that they could pump us full of insect larvae. Yes, there is insect larvae in the vaccines. We know this, it is scientifically proven. Pfizer tells you that it's in their ingredient list. And then heavy metals. So between these two things, they're working together in a biologically weaponized way to make us a certain way. And a lot of people, especially recently, go, parasites aren't the problem. And a lot of people think of parasite, and you think of a 21-foot worm that we've all seen on Discovery Channel. And yes, you'll see those, possibly come out of you around the second or third month of like hydrogen peroxide, oxy powder. You'll see weird stuff come out of you, but I'm really more worried about these microscopic bugs that live in our blood. Those, in many cases, do a lot worse problems, and they're not always biological. I have been doing this for so long that people send me pictures every full moon, and the things that are coming out of them, they're not cute little earthworms. They are metal. They have shine. They have luster to them. So when we talk about parasites, I'm talking about something that takes from you and does not give back nearly anything that it's taking. So this could be, yes, a worm in your body. It could also be your employer, your spouse, your child. So don't be surprised when you start cleansing that people in your life kind of can't stand you anymore, and you repel them. And this is very true. So parasites are much more than just a worm. I want everyone to know that. Also, worms, when you're done, look up, worms can be taken over by frequency. And there's beautiful people playing flutes, and all these earthworms come out to the flutes. So for all we know, these little wormies aren't the bad person. They're being taken over by a source signal, which we have done Lord of the Rings talks, my husband and I. And that's something to keep in mind. Manchurian candidates are and could be just people that are taken over by a signal, and the person itself is not bad. So I just wanted to start off the talk with that. The closest thing, I really haven't done anything with like aliens, like the way you think of aliens, because to me, when I think of what we call aliens, the conversation to me just goes to vampires every single time. I worked for 5 months on a Twilight series. Well, no, it was Signs, but the Signs episode kind of went very hard to the Twilight and Rice route. And I was like, okay, that's a little dark for a conference, and not everyone knows of Edward and Bella's love triangle. So I wanted to start on something a little bit easier and go through Alice in Wonderland today. But the closest thing I've ever done with aliens is our Matrix, Dune, Prometheus, Avatar segment, and they all have certain themes with them. In some of the cases, the humans are the parasites, like with Avatar, and that's the kind of parasitic military-industrial complex that occurs on these other planets. How parasites cause junk. This is actually me just going through my best friend's Telegram channel. Her passion is Rh negative bloodlines, all types of negative blood, which is basically blood without an antigen. An antigen, if you look it up, is a parasitic protein that caps our DNA. And when we're dealing with magic, when we're dealing with all of this stuff, there has to be one thing good in something that's bad, one thing bad that is in something that is good. So antigens are one of those things that it's really good, because ultimately it's what saves our lives when we have a fever. You have a fever, we have a sick baby, we want our body to start that fever, because that means your white blood cells are attacking these obligate parasites known as viruses. And I know there's a bunch of people out there with uncensored information going, viruses aren't real, and they all go to the same person telling them this fancy words, but they don't mention that viruses, in certain viruses, shape-shift so that they look like you'll never isolate these obligate parasites because they have shape-shifted to look like your tissue. And the weird thing is, we know this scientifically, and people still say there's no such thing as viruses, which is what vampires do. The devil, the greatest game the devil ever played was to make you think he doesn't exist. So when you hear there's no such thing as viruses, be like, oh, then why is it that viruses shapeshift and they can't be seen, but they're still there? And this is the type of mental warfare and double talk and double think that they're making us do altogether. So the parasites cause junk is basically if you allow your baby or a child to get sick, and that fever goes a little too high, it's around the 104 degree mark Fahrenheit, Your body will save your life by putting an antigen or a parasitic protein at the end of a DNA strand. And goodness, your DNA is safe, the person has been healed, but the bad part is now that part of the DNA is no longer readable because it's been capped. So it's really easy to get rid of the antigen because oxygen, and a lot of what I talk about is used in water filtration or aquarium, like fish tank cleaners, because we are a fish tank. You're 75 at least % water. Why is it that we have to clean standing water and our animals, but we don't have to clean us? So that's why I use the most basic elements: light, salt, gratitude, water, fresh water, clean water, and all of our minerals to go through our system, get some oxygen in the system, and decalcify our joints and those little antigens that are capping your DNA. And when you're doing this, I will tell you, you're gonna remember almost ancestral trauma, stuff that you maybe never dealt with, but your ancestors did, because you're gonna be decalcifying, how goodness knows how many years, how many generations of this capped antigen DNA. These are some of our biggest videos that my master Jeff and I have done. We cover like 20 different protocols for cancer. You'll never see me trying to sell a book going, this is the only way to cure, because it's not true. I've seen castor oil. People can only get castor oil and they have cured themselves. I've seen people do DMSO, chlorine dioxide, hydrogen peroxide, like everything, and they, of course, get better. I've seen people change their thoughts and get rid of the hatred, and that gets rid of cancer. So we do go through like the basics I would use. I go over, Shavant, she and I did a great video of using your I am phrases. I am healing. I am already healed. I am learning what made me sick. I am on the path. 1 second here. My steps are getting yourself with enough positive ionic trace minerals. We have about 100 in our bodies. Sorry, I see everything as parasites. Once you have enough minerals, you'll be able to absorb things. I've had people take 30 drops of chlorine dioxide, and they're like, I don't know what you mean. I haven't seen anything. I don't feel bad. And I'm like, oh, you don't have any minerals. Take these positive ionic trace minerals, and they're on negative trace minerals. And they're like, I'm on minerals already. I'm like, just try it. Just try it, see how you feel. And then they finally get enough minerals in them, and they can't even do 5 drops of chlorine dioxide because now they're absorbing it, and now they're seeing what's going on. So I like wormwood. I love my herbs. Don't go too hard on any one herb just because, and I had to learn this the hard way, it won't work anymore. So I went hardcore on wormwood blends for like 18 months straight, and then I got sick. I had to babysit a kid, got sick, and my wormwood wouldn't work. And I'm like, I've taken too much. So mix up your herbs. Like I only do wormwood like 3 times a year now. Then I go to dandelion and I have a bunch of herbs. So mix it up if you're doing just herbs. And then my step 2 is oxidizers. There's a bunch of oxidizers. Everyone seems to get a skin problem during detox. Your skin is your largest organ. Don't freak out when you start having what looks like eczema, acne, stuff coming out of your skin. You are purging. You are having an exorcism, and bugs are coming out of you. You might wake up with nasty stuff coming out of your eyes. You might throw up. It's gross. It's gross. Have you ever watched Exorcist movie? You know what you're in for. Usually it's really quick, and we try and tell you to go slow. No one goes slow. We'll get into that in a second, but it's all part of the journey. Take it easy on yourself, and always know what, like charcoal, clay, zeolite, these binders, you need to have them on hand because you never know when you're going to go a little too hard and need them. Binders will always mitigate and pull whatever excess you have in you out so you're not having such a bad reaction. These are just a sampling of my videos. The top left one, I covered all of our steps as quickly as I could in an hour and a half, and then we just go through every single full moon. My master Jeff and I cover what we're seeing that month, and it really does change month to month, especially since 2021 with this experimental shot that everyone's getting. We're seeing stuff barely manifest now that they didn't know was going to happen with that experimental shot. So a little bit about me. I am born smack dab between the fictional character of Hermione Granger and the real person, Stephen King. But the weird thing is that they both shared this idea that you have to look at children's books and fairy tales to understand what is happening in our reality. Everyone realizes that since 2020, really since the 60s, but since 2020, you've shared some kind of information and you weren't allowed to. There was a invisible person, Mark Zuckerberg? Yeah, I don't know. He's kicked me off. I've been kicked off I'm not on Twitter, I'm not on anything. So I had to do a social media detox and not by choice because, well, you'll see, I get kicked off. I piss everyone off. And I do so by talking about fairy tales and how they are real life. So today we're going to go over Alice in Wonderland. Yes, if we want to be academic and split hairs, there were 2 different Alice in Wonderland books and Through the Looking Glass, and then you have the Jabberwock poem and other little poems, but we all seem to know and best know of the Disney movies and adaptations that have come since those books were written. And I will be talking about all the Alice in Wonderland adaptations. So it's definitely going to get multidimensional in here. Truths have to be shared through safe riddles to make it through decades. My mom is half Native American. They're very big into telling stories. It doesn't even matter if the story happened or not. That's how they teach children these esoteric ideas and give a sense of morality. The Bible is the oldest written book. I don't care if it was edited. We will go into the edits. But the problem is so many people have read it. Now it's in this huge consciousness, shared consciousness, that some of it could happen even if it was never true to begin with, even if it was edited to begin with. It has been the most read and printed book in the world. So everything has to be looked at. Alice in Wonderland, some people think it's too dark. Some people go, oh, well, Lewis Carroll, he made it after a little brunette girl who was his 6-year-old of his professor, and he took nasty pictures of her, and that is completely correct. And sadly, it's been one of the best, well-known, oldest stories in our civilization, and we have to look at it. It's hard to do, but we got to do it. It's interesting to know that Carroll first called this Alice's Adventures Underground, and then it eventually turned to In Wonderland. And then Tim Burton gave a nod to this with his storytelling of Alice in Wonderland. She comes back as like a teenager, and she forgets ever going to Wonderland. It was just a dream to her. She was a little girl, and she thought it was Wonderland, but they are like, no, it's Underland. So again, we cover Lord of the Rings, and I'll be doing another sequel to this for the Rings of Power, but we all know multidimensionality is a layered type of terrain that we're dealing with, which is why whenever I hear about extraterrestrials, vampires who live underground, they are on a different terrain. They are extraterrestrials, and there's also good things living underground that people have talked about as well. So not all of these different multidimensional things are parasitic or evil in nature, but there are differences. And the most important, and I went through it with Tyler and Aaron on the Journey to Truth vampire episode we did, is you have to realize the Testament of Solomon, all of these secret societies. Everyone loves to talk crap about the Masons, but we're in the most beautiful lodge. You don't see hearths like this anymore. You don't see beams built this way anymore. Masons did this. That's stone. This is beautiful. You guys hate what makes architecture gorgeous. And when you hate something, you allow it to go uncensored and you allow bad people to take over because you don't want to look at it. So when we're talking about a lot of this stuff, builders had to build a society. And I know nowadays everything is very, in Phoenix, we do not have pretty buildings at all. It's very depressing. If you ever go into like a Google or one of these new buildings, it's very cold. So ironically, we need good masons and good builders back in our society, but that means that we have to go back to basics and learn some of the fundamentals. The story of Alice in Wonderland starts off with Alice simply being bored. She's a little girl. Her sister's trying to teach her a history lesson under a tree, and it's a really boring subject. And she's a little girl. She's like, I want to live in a world with no rules. Like, that sounds like so much fun. And she drifts off into sleep. She actually says, if I had a world of my own, everything would be nonsense. Nothing would be what it is, because everything would be what it isn't. And contrary-wise, what is, it wouldn't be. And what it wouldn't be, it would, you see? Be careful what you wish for. A world of nonsense lacks law and order, so don't be surprised, of fairy tales of eating children might arise in a nonsensical land. Now, I don't want you guys to start getting bored and fall asleep on me, so I'll really quickly cover this, and we'll keep coming back to this idea of William the Conqueror. I don't know if you guys have seen it. My husband and Tyler and Cosmic Origins Jace all did a Star Wars episode where it was like a couple weeks ago, where we delve into Star Wars and the truth behind what it is telling us from a long, long time ago. And we go into the importance of understanding bloodlines, and it really is just a huge game of football. You kind of understand what the secret societies are looking at. You understand that it's King Solomon was, Charlemagne swears that he was related to King Solomon, which is like David and the Goliath family, and that is supposed to be this Jesus bloodline. And I know I was raised Christian, and the Vatican told all Christians with King James Bible, Jesus didn't have any kids. Forget about a bloodline. None of you guys are special. Bye. And it's like, oh, that's funny because King Charlemagne says he was a descendant, and David says he was a descendant, and everyone is trying to track this football, so just saying it didn't happen and taking King James' word for it in the edits of the Bible is, maybe not the best thing to do. And this is why I tell people, you got to cleanse before doing this, and not just oxidizers, not just one thing. I always hear people going, oh, I like this one thing in cleansing, and it's like, it's really a couple different things. You need antioxidants, you need oxidants, you need salts, you need cleansers, you need all these different things that add up to a full, clean body so you can understand and discern these. Because a lot of times you go to explain this to people and their programming, they just start talking and they're like, no, that's not truth. And they're giving you this very edited information. But yet we're living in a world that it's like this edited information is being tracked by the bad guys, so maybe we should just look at it and understand what they believe. It doesn't matter if you believe something, these bad guys do believe it. So we have to see what they believe. William the Conqueror was the Duke of Normandy, 9th great-grandson of Charlemagne. If you're looking at the football of royal bloodlines throughout history, you understand that this is supposedly this Christ bloodline of King David and Solomon and Charlemagne. And he was French, but he became the King of England after the Battle of Hastings. I have covered this in quite a few of my series. We'll get to the actual videos in a few seconds. So I say fiction is prophecy. If there are words on a paper, people are going to read those words, and it's going to happen just because it's in our psyche. Now, there was a Mark Twain book that he never published when he was alive. They found 6 different copies in his possession when they were going through his stuff when he was dead. And one of the earliest copies explains that in the 1500s or 1400s, this guy named Satan came to a little village, and he's like, oh, you guys have a printing press? That's the biggest dark magic, but you don't know of it yet. And we learn quickly that that's where this predictive programming, this future fortune telling, this manifestation is coming from, is the written word. I always tell people, and if you watch my Harry Potter series, I started off with the whole armor of God. I always say it before coming on here: helmet of salvation, breastplate of righteousness, belt of truth, shroud my feet in God's gospel, give me the sword of the Spirit and the shield of faith. This is you putting on your armor. So in Alice in Wonderland, in the poem Jabberwocky, that is part of this Carol's work of art, there is a poem that the Jabberwock, a huge dragon that seems like he's completely unbeatable, he will be slain by Alice in a knight's outfit. And in the Tim Burton telling of the story, she hears this, and she's a little 13-year-old, and she's like, I'm never going to do that. Excuse me? You want me to, what? No, that's not going to happen. And what the creatures of Wonderland are telling her, it's already happened. We're just playing it out. You've already slain this dragon. She goes, I'll never do that. What are you talking about? So, and this is also, all of you girls, if you know the tarot, guys and girls, sorry, you know it's a fool's journey. You know starting something new is starting off as the fool. And that really is the Alice in Wonderland we are looking at, is you see her not know her power. She doesn't even know her name. That's like the entire thing. Who are you? She forgets she's Alice, and she needs to just realize who she is, and you get this confidence. So you see her going through her hero's journey, starting off as the fool. Now, whenever we deal with dragons, I do always want to go back to every single video I do. Goes back to Camelot, King Arthur, Merlin, that whole storyline. And Merlin had a prophecy that a red dragon and a white dragon one day will fight. Scholars, academics have said this is Scotland and Britain. We don't know. That's what everyone says. It's uncensored, so we don't really know. So that is where I think of the Jabberwock. However, we learned that Lewis Carroll actually got the idea of the Jabberwock from an old Celtic story of the Lambton worm, and I cover that worm in my vampire episode. And it's this awesome story of how vampires were created from a little white worm, and there's a movie about it called The Lair of the White Worm. It's a cool horror movie, like made in the 80s. It's like really cheesy. I love it. It has a bomb soundtrack. Anyway, if you watch it, they explain they're vampires, and they're like, oh, you're a serpent. And he's like, I'm more of a worm. Like, I'm not a serpent. And I always say the serpent in the Bible, they never say it's a snake. They say it's a serpent. There are 3,000 species of snake. There are 6 million species of serpents. And yes, most of them are parasites. So probability-wise, the serpent was a parasite or a worm over the fact of it being a snake. We go down the hall of doors, where we find a drink me bottle. Now, this is where I personally messed up my healing journey, and I see everyone do it. We want to be better. When you find out you have toxins and creepy crawlies inside of you, your skin starts crawling, and you're like, I want them out, I want them out. Give me anything, I'll take it. And we all go a little bit too hard. I know I did. My best friend, she was teaching me how to do chlorine dioxide. She told me 100 times. She made me read 3 books, and every single thing, she was like, your first time, you're only gonna have like 1 drop your first day. She told me this for months, and when I finally did it, I did 6 drops. I threw them back, and I paid for it. I drank too much, I got too cocky, and I had to feel the Herxheimer or die-off reactions, and it's not pleasant. So I always tell people in my chat, whatever you do, I don't care what anti-parasitic it is, go slow. Even if the back of the bottle, for example, Scram. Scram is one of my favorite wormwood plant brands. It tells you to do 10 pills on the back. No one I know can do 10 pills, especially if they're newbies. Start off with 2 pills that first day, maybe go up to 3. Work your way up to 6. Everyone I know usually kind of only does 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 2 at dinner. I don't know anyone who does 10 pills. So whatever the back of the bottle says, even your first couple times, do only 25 to 50% dose and work your way up. Alice does not do this. She chugs the entire bottle that says drink me, and she shrinks. And you can tell that I drank too much because I'm short. I don't got that giant blood. My first thing I went to, personally, was chlorine dioxide. There are tons of oxidizers. People have ozone machines, hydrogen peroxide, food grade. My Master Jeff loves methylene blue. I hear new things all the time. So there are different oxidizers. Technically, just drinking lemon water will mix with your stomach acid, and this makes natural chlorine dioxide inside of your system because the citric acid activates with your HCl or stomach acid, and you will naturally make chlorine dioxide, which goes into your blood. Also, hydrogen peroxide. Everyone knows that vitamin C is good for us. No one knows why. It turns into hydrogen peroxide in your body. So there's a million studies explaining why vitamin C is good for us, but I don't like most of the ways it's sold because it's made with black mold. Or you're eating a bunch of fruit, which might have too much sugar. So I like just skipping that step and microdosing. The 1 Minute Cure book explains how much to do of hydrogen peroxide. Oh, and my Master Jeff loves cacao. Again, when you don't drink too much of anything, everything in moderation. My Master Jeff had like cacao every day for 10 years, and he just found oxalates in his blood, so he has to do a few months without this particular drink, even though he loves it. He even had to, go back to basics and realize, oops, I drank too much, exactly like Alice does. Now, I'm not getting witchy with this. We are all stars. I'm looking around. There's a bunch of people with heads and feet and hands, and you are literally a star. And when you fall into snow, you'll realize that star turns into an angel really quickly. But you have to raise your vibration and do some movement. I always talk about bringing in, I'm so glad I followed Mason and Hal and all these people who explain how important, you guys already finished my prerequisite work. We need to get your body holding light, positive light, salts, minerals, sea products like sea moss, spirulina. All of these things have like 80 to 100 of the minerals. Don't even think about doing chlorine dioxide if you're not having enough minerals in your system. And then have dirt, charcoal, carbon, simple dirt, zeolite, clays, different kinds of clays. We need light, we need sunlight. 1 hour before sunrise, 1 hour before sunset, sun gaze. Get those UV rays into your eyes. You don't have to look directly at the sun. You can look right off to the distance of it and only do it when the sun is setting. I know many of us share a Facebook friend who is known for going out into New York City and staring straight at the sun. It can be done, and it does wonderful healing benefits to the body. So with salt, with gratitude, you will be able to hold this light and get it into your body. Now, I see parasites as vampires, so you will kill the parasites that are allergic to sun. And everyone goes, whenever you talk about parasite cleansing, there's marketing campaigns to make you think, but you're going to kill the good gut flora. And I say a couple things. I say, no, you're not, because your good gut flora knows that you have to have oxygen because you naturally convert. You have a lot of oxygen in your body. You produce it. Hydrogen peroxide happens in your body. Your good gut flora, it can survive these elements. It's the vampiric bugs that can't. And when you are cleansing, you're intaking sourdough, you're having kombucha, you're having fermented food, kefirs, sauerkraut. And if you look in different countries that have very high fermented food diets, they don't have a lot of the parasites and the autism and dementia that we have because they're constantly putting good armies of bugs into their body to kill the bad armies of bugs. What else? Yeah, okay. So go slow with whatever you do. Don't drink too much. Alice learns of a story. It was a poem by Carol, and it was put into all at least the 50s version of Alice in Wonderland that we all probably know. And it's this story of a walrus eating little baby oysters. And that really made us all sad when we watched it. And we're like, how can things eat babies? And Alice finds this story out like really quick. When you go into an nonsensical land, you're not going to have law and order. No one's going to save the baby oysters. So we often hear about the white rabbit or the child traffickers that go get the children from the surface and lure them down into underground tunnels. These are called white rabbits in emails that were deleted. And we know that the molecule for this adrenochrome, it looks like a little rabbit. Adrenochrome is oxidized adrenaline, and that is why the news, the media, Big Pharma is trying to keep you guys in fight or flight. You guys are constantly going from releasing adrenaline because we're all mad at each other. We're all fearful of our neighbors even. We're fearful of what we hear on the news. And that's what they want. If you have a society that is in fear, they can be controlled so easily. So get ready to heal your inner child when you start hearing this news. When you start cleansing, you're going to get really emotional. It's so weird. I don't have it up here, and I've covered it a bunch of times, but there's proof that when you get sad, it's called heartbreak syndrome. When you get sad, your heart tissue will tear, and now there is a little tiny womb that is open for a new inhabitant, and your body's so full of different toxins, waste, heavy metals, all these things, that a bug will make its home in this heartbreak womb, and you will eventually heal over it over time. But when you're cleansing, you're going to remove some of these really, really old bugs from tissue that could be there 10, 15, 80 years. And you're like, oh my gosh, I have this like sensation of feeling sad about a boyfriend I had when I was 13 that broke my heart. And it's like, you don't just let the feeling go, let it pass through you. You actually reopened a womb that there was a bug that's dead, and you remove the bug. So now the womb for a little bit is like reopened, and you might feel it for a day. So don't get weirded out when you start feeling like nonsensical emotions. Just let it go through you and let it go out. This one's hard, especially for us. I love herbs. I love all types of herbs, and herbs sometimes have the ability to block pain. I love a bunch of different herbs for blocking pain for chemotherapy patients. I don't like chemotherapy, but some people have to do it in different countries, and they're lucky enough to get cannabis to block that pain. The only problem is it might block the pain of some of these really sad feelings, and you need to let that pain go through you and out of you. So there is a time for cannabis, and there is a time to maybe put it aside while you're doing a detox. And whenever you tell people that, they're like, no, it's only good. But what did we learn about cacao? What did we learn about oxygen? You can have too much. Everything is about moderation and a time and a place also. Also, releasing stored trauma, movement, fallen dafa, yoga, certain exercises, just get your body moving. You will realize that there's stored trauma in the backs. I see a bunch of healers here. I see you guys working. You know what you're doing. They're removing this stored trauma, which might just be in random places of your body. And when you start moving a certain way, you will notice a purging event take place, and it has moved through you and out of you. When you are in a nonsensical reality, when there is no law and order, there's going to be a caucus race. A caucus race means elections are rigged. It means that everyone is running in circles, trying to dry off while being in water. No one is getting dry. Winners of political races aren't getting their actual votes being counted. People are being sent to jail for no reason. A lot of targeted individuals I work with are sent to jail for literally no reason. And there are reasons for this. They don't want certain bloodlines, certain people out in the world doing what they're doing. All right. There's 2 gardens in the series of Alice in Wonderland. Alice, the first garden she meets, she's kicked out of it. She's considered a weed, which is funny because I love weeds. Dandelions are one of the best healing tools. But Alice is kicked out of her innocence beyond her will. And then later on, we find out that she goes to the Queen of Hearts and she has to deal with painting the roses red. Scholars and people paid off by Epstein. If you notice, all the elite colleges were paid by Epstein. So they all tell you that it's her losing her puberty, like she's going through puberty. No, there's other ways that flowers can be painted red. All of this, by the time of the Alice in Wonderland, she's like, oh my God, this world is horrible. She's lost, she's scared, she's witnessed babies being eaten, she's been kicked out of, she is not in a good place. You have to have faith. And again, I love Jesus, I love God, but you need to have something that has a ending where the ending is good, where you will be saved. Pandora's box, every horrible horror was released onto the society, but hope was kept. If you can keep hope, you will always realize that there is a possibility. Even if it's 0.001% chance, there is a possibility of being saved of all this stuff. And they wanted to make everyone autistic, and Rain Man, to me, the biggest psyop in fiction in the 80s was Rain Man, because they were getting us ready to see what the late 80s vaccines were going to do to children. And it was making, what does Rain Man do? He knows all these statistics. Oh, all of these planes went down. Oh, all of this bad stuff is going to happen. So he thinks just because it's happened to other people, it's going to happen to me. I'm like, I'm going to be the 1% that gets away with a good outcome of this. I'm never going to think of, oh, this could happen and be scared. I'm going to think of, we could make it out just fine. That's the biggest conspiracy theory. Everything is going to be just fine. I am Alexia Eisenhower. I'm really big into saying your name. For me, I want you to say your given name at birth. A lot of people don't want to do that. My parents all have used their middle names. So she's like, I don't connect with that name. And I'm like, just try saying it. That's why you're sick, Mom, because you won't say your name. So it grounds you. You don't have to be called it at work, but maybe look in the mirror and be like, I am your given name. A gifted child. Oh, I was a gifted child with imaginary friends. I had my angels talking to me way too long, way too late in life. I was from a military family. All the men in my family were pretty high up military. Even my husband did combat medic service, and I helped him get his NREMT, so I did learn a little bit of the basic trauma care with him early on. I wanted to be a journalist since I was a child, and I was on various school newspapers, but I have extreme dyslexia. Anyone who's watched Percy Jackson knows that some of us gifted people, we can't see the English language. And the grammar Nazis are really called grammar Nazis because if you look at how the education system was changed after World War II, you'll see that's where a lot of our English language was made for like MLA format, and it has to be this one way, even though a lot of people spelt many different words differently, and they got over it and they understood what they were saying, and they, like Shakespeare, were able to get on with their life if there was an I instead of an E for certain words and stuff like that. Okay, a little bit on my master, because he reminds me of the smoking caterpillar. The sage in the series, Alice meets a caterpillar, and he just makes her think. He makes her be accountable. Who are you? So my master Jeff, we are part of Heels on Wheels tribe. We work, and we have been working for at least the past 4 years trying to get people this information for free. We have hundreds of hours of videos. We cover a bunch of different things. And it all goes back to have enough water, salt, and gratitude. The poorest person usually can get those ingredients. You can get fancy with it, or you can just have a good, like, trace mineral supplement, a good skyline to see the sun, and gratitude to fill your heart. This is the hardest one for all of us. He tells us to get over our damn selves. Like I said earlier, how many times did you know Nelson Mandela died? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we knew to be true, and then we knew that a certain person won the presidential election in 2020. It's obvious. You can see rallies, but he didn't apparently. So it's like everything you know, you can't have an ego and put all of your eggs in one basket. You have to look at things subjectively because things do change. Especially in a nonsensical reality, which is also why I like Jesus, because Jesus equals truth, and I think it's more of a programming code, like a backdoor. So I think if you speak truth, that is speaking with Christ consciousness. So in a nonsensical reality like Wonderland is, there's going to be a lot of untruths out there. Since we are 5D individuals, well, you can tell we're 5D individuals even if we aren't in the 5D right now because we have 5 phalanges. There are underground there's aliens with 3 digits because they can only exist on the 3rd dimension. We need to get back to our normal, what our body was made for, which is at least 5th dimensional reality. So this is 5 bodies: your spiritual, your mental, your emotional, your energetic, and physical. And once you clear your chakras, it's really, everyone I've noticed really just stores their trauma in these lower chakras. For the most part, your root and sacral is where everyone seems to get the most problems. And once you clear these out, your endocrine system is going to start going into overdrive, or it's going to start working again. And all of your chakras will align and all of your hormones will immediately start getting back in order. But everyone seems to have problems with these two. That's why men are dying left and right from prostate cancer. It's because women, we can get rid of our stuff once a month, and I know you're told that those things in Our Lady time of the month is blood clots, but since 2020, we've learned that blood clots are actually worms. Women can get rid of these, men can't, and that's where enlarged prostates come in, and that's where the lower 2 sacral and root chakras are having problems. But once you get this taken care of and ground and give gratitude, you'll notice that all your other chakras quickly fall in line, and all of the different hormones quickly start being produced correctly. And he also does energetic transmissions. He's using a C60 vape right here, and you can literally just feel his healing energy of this particular detoxifier. And we always give out these little transmissions for free. And I always tell people have some salt water if you want to do this. It gives it extra grounding, and it actually works. Everything, like I said earlier, they're trying to keep us into a fear state. You are easy to control if you are fearful. If you are like Rain Man and you think, oh, well, this could happen, you're going to be in fight or flight response. So Master Jeff doesn't work on anyone until we get rid of that fight or the adrenaline from being released. So we need to stimulate the parasympathetic system. There's a bunch of different vagus nerve exercises, different breathings, different sounds that calm the vagus nerve, and this will stop your body from releasing adrenaline. So you can actually heal. You're not going to heal if you keep producing adrenaline. Your body's like, we're on the run. We are trying to stay survived. You're not going to heal when you're on the run. So you have to tell your body, I am safe. I am okay. Nothing bad is going to happen. And you do the different various things to get your body stimulated parasympathetically. A bloody tyrant. Alice quickly meets in the books. It is the Red Queen and the Queen of Hearts, but the movies kind of can put these 2 queens together as one. And I always tell people to go back to my Journey to Truth vampire episode. I go into the Mary Queen of Scots having a baby named King James, and the fake queen taking the baby, putting the real mother into a tower, and that baby King James edited the Bible. And now we are left with half-truths, edited truths, and also fake royalty. The reason that we have royalty, if you like it or not, is because the royals think they are following this Christ bloodline, and that is why there's royals. So if you realize that the royals were taken over, then you're like, oh, so if there's this bloodline, it was switched out during the Mary Queen of Scots. I've never watched it. I've had to read synopsis on it. It is Vampire Diaries. Vampire Diaries and its prerequisite show Origins? Okay, it's a different one. Is it Originals? Okay, I'm pretty sure it was called something else, but they're all about this bloodline and being taken over by vampires. And that's where the vampires started, was this fake royalty. A lot of different shows actually show that. So, fears, threats, and slavery. In the Tim Burton storytelling of this, there is a character of a bloodhound, and the bloodhound was made as a slave through fear to work for the Queen of Hearts. And he actually helped the White Hats, he helped Alice. He didn't alert the Queen's men that Alice was there, so he was a very good boy, and he actually acted as a good dog to get information and to get the White Hats through some serious situations without alerting the Queen. And you quickly see that the Queen in the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland version, they are all only following her orders because they're scared of her. They're gonna die. She's gonna kill their families. So even in the Alice in Wonderland, you realize a lot of the Black Hats, they're only following orders because they're being made to out of fear. But at the very end of the story, they all realize, and they do turn against the Queen at the very last second, at the precipice. There's not as many bad people as you think there are, especially when you take away fear. The only thing that these people have are really your IRS funds, and we are paying them to keep us in fear. If you take away their money, they're not going to have any control over any of us. And I do think that's been happening. I think that's why these certain things are happening, wars, trials, to get money. I personally think it's funny that Donald Trump gave them cash for his bond because cash can be tracked. And I am really interested to see where that tracked cash is going to end up going to. Okay, in our modern day, there is some fiction, just written words. It hasn't been proven to be true or not true. And Alice in Wonderland is talked about a lot in the Q post. And everyone goes, those are fake. So what? It could happen because so many people have read about it. Now it is in the possibility, the probability, the faith of our generation. It doesn't matter if it was fake to begin with. It is real because so many people have read it. It is the hope, it is the faith that could possibly churn the tides. And Alice and Wonderland is talked about a lot in those posts, and I highly suggest everyone go look at Alice in those posts and also Looking Glass. You're going to look at, who did the things in the hallway? And someone, okay, it was Tyler. So he put a presentation out there with some really cool machinery with the Looking Glass project and the different Alice Q post. There's so many of them, and I didn't want him to, obviously he was wasting printer ink because it's a dark background, but go read all the Alice and Looking Glass. If we are in this nonsensical land looking at stuff play out a certain way, we could be, seeing this come to light. If you like Donald Trump or not, and that's another thing, get over your damn self. There's a lot of people I don't like, but I trust wholeheartedly. There's a difference between nice and kind. Being kind is telling the truth, is doing something for someone's better good. And the truth hurts. The truth is ugly. Being kind, Rick and Morty have an episode called Total Recall, where alien parasites take over their house. And these alien parasites put memories, false memories, into the family. And they're so nice. They genuinely are. So much so that the family, Rick and Morty, realize, I don't have any bad memories of these parasitic aliens. Oh no. That was weird. They don't have any bad memories because they're so nice. But they started realizing that that's these member berries. Remember me? They try to keep us in a state of, do you remember the good times? And not keep us into the present, have us keep looking back. That's why they're doing all these remakes of movies. They want you to think back to Indiana Jones and how happy you were under Reagan. They want you to keep looking back. Fallout. I love Fallout. It's a wonderful little show, but it's nostalgic. All of these podcasts going into the 90s and 80s shows, they want you looking back. They don't want you to stay present. So if you can stay present and you start realizing the difference between kind and nice, you'll find the truth. And yeah, the devil's really nice. I will say that. That's the hard thing. The devil is very, very nice and very, very comfortable. People are willing to put up with an uncomfortable reality before trying something new. And the truth and people who are kind, and the Bible tells you to be kind, that's a little bit different. And sometimes it doesn't feel very good to learn the truth. So I can't look at, what is it called? Any social media, but you guys can. So you guys can go onto Twitter and Meta products, and you guys can look up keywords that I'm talking about, Alice and Wonderland, and you guys can see all the people's different digs, but I can only look at Truth Social. So that's where all the people have been putting their digs for the Alice and Wonderland comms that are out there, and it goes into remote viewing, not the cool kind that we talk about at this conference, but the kind that's being used against our will. You see bad players, you see terms like SA. A lot of people think, and it could mean, multiple meanings exist, that SA means Saudi Arabia. It also means sexual abuse, which is an underlying tone of Alice in Wonderland. In a nonsensical reality, bad things happen to kids. I keep going back to Charlemagne, Solomon, Christ's bloodline, and there have been multiple times where the rightful royal family has tried to take over their rightful place in the royal hierarchy. The most notable time is Guy Fawkes. He was part of the gunpowder plot, and it was just too early. It was, 1500s? I think. Him and a small group of true patriots for the royal heirs tried to overthrow Parliament, and it didn't end up going well, but I think it was much too early, much too soon. If you've watched The Crown, there is a Princess Diana episode where she named William after William the Conqueror, and Princess Diana is actually a Spencer. She is from the Spencer Cavendish bloodline, and she, Princess Diana, is actually this true royal family, and the royals knew they needed either her or her sister. They needed her blood, and Charles dated Diana's sister. She said no to him, so then he's like, I guess I have to go to the baby. He dates Diana just for these kids to be born. So I don't trust Prince William at all, but he was, by his mother, supposed to be named after William the Conqueror. And they show this in the Crown series, and they do call that episode Gunpowder. So good to know. Remember the 5th of November. Something also I want to tell people, a lot of the Alice in Wonderland Q posts were dated for basically November 5th. And whenever people talk about, what is it called? Delta dates and stuff of that nature. Everyone looks at the 1-year deltas. I've always looked at the 6-month deltas, which is 182 days. So if you look at 182 days from November, that's May. So there's a lot of May and November comms, and we're kind of there right now. And we're seeing a lot of stuff. We're seeing sky events. We're seeing things that were talked about years ago, and they're actually happening now. Talk about looking glass. Oh, this was supposed to go earlier, but yes, this is just Lewis Carroll explaining his Jabberwock was the reference of the Lambton worm, which is the original vampires. So if you know, you know. It seems like a nice little story. I can see vampires lore in a lot of these stories, so I'm like, yep, he's telling us that the scariest thing we're gonna have to go against is basically bloodsuckers. And that goes into adrenochrome, that goes into why are certain emails being hidden, stuff of that nature. Again, parasites don't necessarily mean worm. It just means something that takes and doesn't give. This could be a nasty little virus, which a virus is called an obligate parasite, or it could be the IRS, your government, your abusive spouse, parents, things of this nature. Fear over faith. Why I think the Bible is so important is it gives you stories of a little guy triumphing, doing the impossible, killing a giant. Did it happen? Maybe, maybe not. I don't care. It's the story that it could happen. You could go against the Jabberwock. You could go against the giant and overcome it. Now, yes, David is part of this. Solomon, Charlemagne, Christ bloodline, supposedly, who knows? But it's important to know that through Christ and through God, all things are possible. So jot that down. This is something, if you understand how alchemy works, if you understand magic, you understand the yin and the yang. That was cool, but. The cool thing about, so with everything bad, with everything scary, by cosmic law, there has to be something good that comes of it. And Satan knows this. That's why Satan tries to seem like he doesn't exist. Because realistically, if we realize that Satan does exist, that means everything else of the story is true. That means God is real. That means things against Satan and how to kill him and how to kill demons and how to use Solomon's tools to defeat the demons that Solomon met in the cave. That means that the angels that can defeat every demon, they're all true. So when we do find out that these demons are real, and if we stop calling them extraterrestrials, like Travel Channel tries so hard for us to look at, you'll realize how to defeat them. And I get excited when I'm like, oh, so that the bad guy's real, that means the good guy and the prophecy is real too. But the devil doesn't want you to know that. He wants you to keep it dumb, and he wants you to stay in the dark. So that means the prophecy is real too, and we can overcome it. And it's already been done, it's already been said, it's already happened. We're just playing it out right now. And Alice says, why sometimes I've believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. And it's an amazing scene in the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland. She says, she's going again, she's all suited up, she's going up against the Jabberwock, he's huge, and she's like, I met a talking caterpillar, I've met a vanishing cat. I've done all these impossible things. So what's one more impossible thing? It's already happened. People don't realize, like, helicopters, they really shouldn't stay in the air. There's a lot of things that technically aren't possible that we use every single day. So what's one more impossible thing? And that's kind of where I go with faith. Have faith and you will triumph over fear. That's another thing. Don't listen to anything I say. I am a flesh and mortal person just like you. I don't have a light body yet. I say I do because if we have enough salt, that salt will create the light. Salt and water will give you a light body, which is why I always want you guys having that salt and minerals. You will have a light body. And yes, technically, every single element is made of photons, which is light vibrating, which is a hologram. So technically, we do have a light body. But what Lowell showed yesterday, that was a real light being. That was straight up light. So everyone might only have a piece of the bigger puzzle. So just keep that in mind. We're all crazy here. And we're still alive. That's all that matters. So I'm excited to see what goes on after. Now, how Alice in Wonderland ends is the White Queen moves to the soup tureen, sets up the Red King's checkmate, and when Alice slides over to seize the Red Queen, she puts the Red King in checkmate herself and ends the game. It happens really quick. Now that the game has ended, Alice just wakes up and she goes, oh yeah, it was all a dream. Huh, that's interesting. So look for chess masters into this realm and see if those chess masters are being persecuted. And last but not least, simply seeing a checkerboard. We know a lot. I know each and every one of you is like, that's Illuminati. Like, checkerboard is MK Ultra. No, it means you are playing a game. Yes, one of the team might not be your team, but that doesn't mean to forget that you're playing for the right team. That doesn't mean to stop playing the game. In Jumanji, in Zathura, those are books and movies about games, and everyone starts the game and then wants to stop playing because it gets hard, it gets scary, but you have to finish the game you started. And a cool thing that all these, I I don't know where it came from actually, but a lot of people say, don't play the game. The only way to win is not to play. But that's not true if you've already in the middle of a game. When we're done with this game, yes, never play again. That's fine. That's nope. Put the game away. Yes, never play. But you've already started playing. Never let someone tell you to stop playing the game once you've already started the game. Yeah, that's it. The end. Oh, wait, hold on, you guys, wait, I wanted to show you one more thing. Wait, did it play? Yes, the Bedazzled scene. The ending of Bedazzled, it's Satan and God playing a game of chess, and the sexy Satan makes God look away so she can cheat really quick. Yes, they're always going to make you not look at the game. They want you to pretend, oh, there's no game, stop playing. There's no prophecy, because the second you remember, it's all going to come to play. So, yeah. All right, adios.
Thank you so much. So we do have time for a couple questions. If anybody does have a question for her, we can line up over here, and I'll take the questions. But I do have a question for you. So I remember you talking about during people's parasite cleanses, about, I guess, 7 days in, they just suddenly think, oh, this isn't working, I don't need to do this anymore. And I believe you explained it as like the parasitic consciousness taking over, telling you that it's not working or you don't need it. Can you elaborate on that?
There's a couple things. I like people to go slow. I don't want you to overload your kidneys and liver, which for example, ivermectin is actually a kind of dangerous antiparasitic, and I can use it just fine. Many of you guys have been able to use it. You guys are healthy. You guys have done herbs before. But the people who are vaccinated, the people who aren't healthy, don't live a very healthy life, ivermectin is kind of their worst nightmare because it grabs all their toxins and it sends it to the bloodstream. And I told Dr. Zelenko, do not put cancer patients on ivermectin. It will kill them. It will give them a heart attack before it cures their cancer. And he died of a heart attack before he cured his cancer. I'm not joking. Some of these things out there overload your blood because it removes everything to your blood at once. So I like to go very, very slow, and then maybe at the end of a 3-month cleanse, do 1 serving of ivermectin to clean up all of the debris that you've caused. But what Tyler was talking about is when you start cleansing, these bugs, look up. Parasites have the ability to put fear into your head. That's what Toxoplasmosis gondii does. Toxoplasmosis gondii, it's a teeny, teeny, tiny parasite. I'd rather you kill Toxoplasmosis gondii over tapeworm any day. It's fun to see the tapeworm come out. But this invisible plasma parasite makes you commit suicide. And our 22 a day, which is much higher than that of our military members, our warriors of society, they are dying because they all get 26 shots at MEPS. And they are given this many different parasites that cause suicide because once you're out of the military, they don't need you. They want you dead so you don't revolt. And basically, that is why we want to remove these blood parasites. And if they can make you kill yourself, obviously this is why in the Bible, when people are demon possessed, they want to be called they and them, because there is another entity in the body. Your body is a portal, you are being taken over. I like the Holy Spirit to be the only serpent in my body, and that is what I think the caduceus is. It's 2 serpents going up a spine or a staff. I think one is the devil, one is the Holy Spirit, and they're trying to take over, which one gets to be in your body. That's why I keep going back. I can't do this without using the Holy Spirit, because that to me is the only kind of serpent that I'm allowing to be in my body and give me information. Otherwise, you have the bad one, which is going to keep you in a negative downfall. And guess what? On day 7 of cleansing, you're literally going to hear, you don't have to take chlorine dioxide today. No, you know what? You go a week without cleansing, and then when you start cleansing again, you'll taste ammonia because the bugs are releasing all these toxins, so it tastes gross. I can drink chlorine dioxide and it tastes like lemonade. but other people try it and it literally tastes like the worst thing in the world, like ammonia, public pool pee. And it's because it's not the oxidizer, it's the bugs that you have releasing toxins into your taste buds, and you taste it. So the bugs are going to try to avoid dying, which is why I like to go slow. So you're kind of poisoning them on the down low, and they don't really realize it until they're like slowly dead. And if you take a lot really quickly, you're going to alert them and they're going to fight back. And sometimes fighting back is, you don't have to do a full moon cleanse this month. Wait till next month. It could be as simple as that.
Somehow, and I don't even know how this happened, I never read or saw any version of Alice in Wonderland. Well, my obsession with Wizard of Oz was such that I had no room for anything else. So for someone that has seen or read nothing, which one is the best one in your estimation to begin with?
I appreciate Tim Burton's storytelling, and everyone looks at him and they're like, my friend, I was going through this with her, and she goes, he's scary. Like, I'm not sure if I really like Tim Burton. And I'm like, if you watch all of his shows, Tim Burton tells a lot of truth. And he's scary, and he's doing some of the most truth-telling. And to me, he's telling you how to defeat the demons, which are even scarier than maybe his gothic look that turns off some people. And he's more real than a lot of these people. So I was really, really surprised with the Tim Burton adaptations of the Alice in Wonderland movies. Because it's modern for us to understand. It keeps true to the books, and it's really, really interesting. I really like them.
All right, thank you so much. Let's give it up one more time.